Hi, I'm Nate Ramirez. Let me start with a quote. Bennett Miller, director of Moneyball, once said, "I think baseball represents something closer to our experience. There's no clock in baseball. It's not over until it's over. It's like life, in that there are prolonged periods of boredom and monotony, punctuated by intense moments of excitement and sometimes terror. Those moments of excitement and terror are usually produced by individuals, experiences. Everybody knows Babe Ruth, Nolan Ryan, Sandy Koufax, and these certain characters create not just experiences but memories. So today, my main claim is failure to include Pete Rose in the Baseball Hall of Fame is detrimental to the MLB. If anybody's a baseball fan, they know Pete Rose. He's synonymous with greats, just like Babe Ruth. And I'll tell you why. Baseball's dying. Baseball has been dying. It no longer appeals to the youth of America. Younger fans would be attracted to Major League Baseball if Pete Rose was in the Hall of Fame. Why target younger fans? Because according to Brian McKenna, he did a study on Forbes, and he said that baseball's slump is due to the fact that, according to baseball's core fans continues to age. An average fan is between 52 to 57 years old. According to Market Watch, a publication that specializes in market patterns, the average age is sorry, my bad. The only reason that the youth movement isn't intact is because it's less than 7% currently in baseball. 1/3 so how are we going to do this? According to 2017 Millennial Impact Report, 1/3 of millennials surveyed across the nation's major universities voted that millennials like to engage with causes to help people, not causes. They like to support, millennials like to support issues rather than organizations. This is a huge issue. He's a great player. Baseball is seen as antiquated in its dealings, and when players, a story like Pete Rose's situation in the headlines would attract the attention of the world of sports and give the league a progressive profile. Is Pete Rose even relevant? Well, for the last 30 years since he's been out of baseball, he's mentioned at every major MLB occasion. The playoffs are about to start. If anybody watches baseball, it's October time. So, for the last 4 decades, there hasn't been a more decorated player. Nobody's been able to break his records. According to Hit King Inc. in Las Vegas, that contracts Pete Rose, he averages $25,000 a month during October and during most Major League Baseball, during Major League Baseball events, large events, because people care about him. He's a relevant figure. By addressing this issue, it would mend wounds, which would increase interest in the MLB. The MLB should reevaluate the entire situation. They should recognize the error they committed. They let someone they broke a relationship with someone that's very important to the game, someone that's created memories. There has been inductees and players on the ballot with larger controversy today, like Bud Selig, which was the last commissioner of baseball. He had ties with he had bad business practices that can be found where he paid himself more than he paid players, than people paid players. People like Shoeless Joe Jackson, in 1919 they cheated. Basically, they colluded in throwing the World Series so they can get paid. If the emphasis on the Hall of Fame is truly performance, the induction of Mr. Rose would validate that. Mr. Rose was a switch hitter. He was the MLB leader in hits, 4,256. Games played, 3,576. At bats, 14,053. Singles, 3,215. And outs, 10,328. And 3 World Series rings. He's a champion among the champions. He still holds the majority of the records 4 decades later. And let me finish this. When you forgive, let me finish my presentation with a quote. When you forgive, you in no way change the past, but you sure do change the future. Dr. Bernard Melter. Thank you. Sorry. Because I forgot to say that. It's in my outline. Oh. Sorry.
I don't know.
Oh, because he bet on his own team, and he was a coach at the time. I totally forgot to put that in the actual notes. It's on my outline though. He wasn't throwing the game. He was the Cincinnati Reds manager, and he just bet on the team. But here's the thing: is the big thing that got him was that when he bet, he'd only bet on like players and individuals. But he'd be like, "Oh, I feel like we're gonna win this year," but then he wouldn't bet the next day. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's because he knows that something's wrong with that pitcher." And so people, the stick to the Lord. There's a whole lot of patterns that he caught on to. Right. He wasn't throwing the games, he was just betting on his team. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I'm kind of...
All right, Nate. Well, the proposition's clearly identified, and the way you phrased it, it's a claim of fact. There's not really a preview of what the contents are going to be, and as you were just discussing, we could probably use a little bit more background. People who've been around a while will know what's going on. People who are not familiar with baseball are not going to know what's going on, and people who are more recent, like most of the class, they may have only a vague knowledge. I mean, they've heard of Pete Rose, maybe they're aware of his being banned, but they're not going to know the circumstances. And so I think a little bit more background information would have been helpful at the beginning of the speech. You also need, I know that you probably had a plan and a structure, but it's not very apparent when you're presenting the argument here. At one point we're talking about baseball being dying, and then we're talking about a broken relationship. And I don't know how all of this fits together. There's an argument that you make at one point that said, oh, you know, if we would bring Pete Rose back in, that would bring young people to the game. And I'm still trying to figure out how you get to that conclusion. The closest I can imagine is that the way you visualize it is millennials like people and individuals, and so they would rally to this cause, whereas they wouldn't rally to the cause of saving baseball. They might rally to the cause of saving Pete Rose. I guess that's the inference that you're making there, but it's not particularly clear, and that would have a concomitant effect on baseball overall. That, I think, is a big inferential leap that doesn't work for you. You do manage at the end to get in some of that information about Pete Rose's records. I'm not sure that does anything to address the question of whether or not it would change the way people perceive baseball, and whether or not they would be more inclined to attend games or spend money on it, or any of the sorts of things that would supposedly strengthen baseball. You do cite information about the aging baseball population. You've got information about marketing, about millennials and the way they perceive. So there is some data that is being cited in the speech, but the inferences that you're drawing from that data, I'm not sure are always accurate. And like you mentioned, Shoeless Joe Jackson, for instance. If we were going to make a parallel argument here, is there some reason to believe that if we included Shoeless Joe Jackson in the Hall of Fame, that it would bring people back to baseball? I don't know. How does it tie together? It really talks about maybe some of the problems with the Hall of Fame and the way decisions are made, or that they make decisions that are not necessarily in the best interest of baseball, something like that. Maybe that would be a different way to go at this particular issue. I suggested the one thing, but maybe, I don't know that there's anything like that that's provable. The other way to go about it is that, that the system for making these decisions is flawed. Maybe that would have been a better way to go at this particular point. I do kind of like the quote that you finished with. I do think that you want to work on delivering that quote and figure out how to say it. It probably would be best if you cited the source first before you gave us the quote, so that it doesn't finish with that and instead finishes with the impact argument that you've got there, which is a good exit line, but it feels like it gets stepped on. All right, thank you.